I doubt anyone is gonna believe me, but I don't care. I recently just opened a convenience store. I've spent over a year trying to open it. Since we just opened and I only have one part-time employee right now, I pretty much work 7 nights a week. I have to take the last train every night at around 1 a.m. to get home. With this being so routine, I start to see the same people on the train every night. One man in particular I have seen every night for the last 2 weeks. He's a middle-aged man with a beer belly and always wears the same Dodgers baseball cap. These last few nights, something has changed. It started last Saturday. He came on the train and sat on the other side of the train car as normal, and I know this sounds stupid, but I swear he was a few inches taller. Not terribly noticeable, but I swear on my wife's grave, his head usually goes to just below the handlebars on the ceiling, but that night his head was the same height as the handlebars. At first, I just shrugged it off. Maybe he was slouching before, or I was just misremembering. Monday night was when I knew something was wrong. He was at least a foot taller. He now had to duck under the handlebars just to sit down. I wish I had pictures of before and after so you knew I wasn't seeing things. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's getting taller. Day by day, night by night, inch by inch. The mere thought of this impossible scenario had been eating away at my mind like a termite. I didn't see him Tuesday night, but when I was taking my kids to the park that morning, I could have sworn I saw him at the park so tall he towered over the swing set. He had to be over 2 feet taller at that point. I tried telling my part-time employee that night, but he looked at me like I was telling him I saw an alien. I don't even blame him. Your boss you just met starts ranting to you about how a man is getting taller on the train. Why would you believe him? What if it's just a different guy? He said, as if I hadn't considered that at all. On Wednesday, I spent my entire day looking up ways people could become taller. All I found were bizarre stretches and extremely sketchy surgeries. And even then, the most they could give you was a foot. And when he got on the train that night, he had to duck his head so it didn't hit the roof of the car. He had to be at least 3 feet taller now. For the next few nights, he didn't get much taller, but he did get lankier. His arms became stretched to the point of almost touching his ankles. His neck became horribly outstretched to the point of being disgusting to just look at, with the bumps of his spinal cord showing through his skin like a hairless, starved dog. His hair became longer as well, his Dodgers cap barely able to contain the mess of long black strands loosely falling off either side of his crazed face. The worst part, however, is every night, despite how monstrous he looked, he would walk on the car, sit in his same spot, and patiently wait for his stop before calmly walking off. I can't focus. How am I supposed to even rationalize this in my mind? My mom thinks I am just distraught over my wife's death, but how am I supposed to explain what is really happening? I won't go into detail about every day, but trust me, he changed every single night. Sometimes noticeably, like gaining a few inches in height. Sometimes he barely changed at all. But every time, something was a little bit different. All the time I spend at the store, I'm distracted. I've gone onto different train cars and he still gets on. I've even switched cars after he gets on, and he's on the other cars as well. He's in every car at the same time. I tried to explain this to my mom when she came to pick up my kids. She is worried about me. No one believes me. I don't even know if I believe me. This man has entered my life and poked and prodded at my sanity until I feel my grip on reality slipping like a bar of soap through my fingers. What's stopping him from approaching me, attacking me? Why does he just sit there? I've started a nervous shaking that stays with me all day. The thought of what the man will look like tonight stays in the back of my mind like an itch I could never scratch. Last night he walked in, bones cracking like thin ice with every step, his skin so tightly pressed against his bones you could see every ligament on every visible joint. After seeing how monstrous he became, and his complete lack of any sort of reaction to my presence once again, I decided to do something I had never done before. I decided to sit in a different seat. I usually stay near the back of the train car because he usually sits at the front. Just 3 stops away from where he usually gets off, I decided I was going to sit in the seat that is right in front of him. After taking 3 deep breaths and leaving any worry behind, I got up and made my way to the empty seat across from him. As I sat down, he didn't even register my existence. I had never seen him at this angle before. Getting a better look only served to fill me with heart-pounding fear and regret. His eyes were sticking out from the sides of his head, his pupils milky white like a blind old dog. What used to be his nose now extended outward like a deer's snout. His teeth were sharp as bear teeth, and were always snarled like a threatened lion protecting their youth. I sat there, just staring deep into its eyes. I'm not a religious man, but looking at this haunted figure in front of me, I knew in my heart I was staring at some unholy creation that crawled from the depths of hell just to torment me with its uncanny presence. As we left the last stop before the creature's usual destination, it finally spoke. Sandy, Luke, Jonathan, Christine, Mark, Liam, Melissa, Alexander. It was saying my family's names. From my late wife and children to my mother and cousins I haven't seen in years. Unmoving, unflinching, and without so much as a twitch in the ice of its eyes, it listed name after name. My grandparents, my brother, my nieces, nephews. When it ran out of family, it even began saying the names of friends from college and old high school crushes I had. I felt my fists curl into a ball on my knees as I sat there and listened to this alien creature list off everyone I could ever hold dear to me. Until finally, it was its stop. Like every night before, it got up calmly without saying another word and walked off the train into the black void of the night. Whatever I had left of my mind was broken into pieces. This needed to end one way or another. When I first started noticing these changes, I immediately tried to hire on more help at the store so I didn't have to take the train anymore. I even interviewed a few candidates. Some of them were very good for the position, but every time I went to call them to tell them they got the job, something came over me and I told them they didn't make the cut. As if someone was puppeteering my words, I would open my mouth to say you got the job, and by the time I closed it again, the call was over and they weren't hired. I can't do this. After last night, this cannot continue. With my kids staying with my mom now, no one questioned me getting a Glock G19. I hate guns. They terrify me, but the thing at the other end of the train car terrifies me even more. I spent my entire shift today looking at the gun in my desk drawer, preparing in my mind as to what I was even planning on doing. Getting on the train, I still had no idea. When the creature stepped back on, it looked the same as yesterday. The first time in days, it hadn't made a noticeable difference. At the next stop, before I could even think of a plan of action, I got up ran up beside it, pointing the barrel at its impossibly deformed skull, and fired. The creature made no noise as it slumped to the side, its nightmare-inducing body falling limp on the seats beside it. For a split second, I know I saw the figure turn back into the man it once was, just for a fraction of a second. I bolted out of the train. As I ran down the station, I caught glimpses of the other cars as I ran. There were hundreds of the creatures in each car, motionlessly staring directly at me as I ran. I write this on the bridge just 3 miles away from the train station. I write this not as a justification, but rather an explanation, and one last chance to say I love you. I love you, Sandy. I love you, Luke, and I love you, Jonathan. I love you, Mom and Dad, everyone who will demand an explanation. I hope this provides you some clarity. I'm sorry the hurt I have caused. I hope I have defeated the man on the train and God can look me with grace as I did all I could to defeat this embodiment of hell that crept into my life. But one thing I know for certain, if he doesn't hear my prayers tonight, that won't be the last I see of the man on the train.